everybody. This is my elevator speech on the mental health crisis in schools, or mental health in schools. So the first thing that the module covered was an article entitled Mental Health Crisis in Schools or something like that. And this is a really good article. It started off by telling us that 1 in 5 children ages 13 to 18 has a mental health condition of some kind, and that can encompass a lot of different disorders. And so it urges us, first of all, to step into their world, to understand, to try and understand on the level that they are, what they're feeling, why are they feeling this way, what situations are they in and out of school that would make them feel this way. Second, it discussed a few practices and interventions, as well as urges us to use evidence-based practices and interventions to help those students. It also pointed out that mental health is a growing crisis and that there is a huge scarcity of available care. Going back into the practices and interventions though, something huge that it talked about that I really liked is that although we do need to implement management for those who are already within the crisis, those who are already diagnosed, schools do not have enough preventative measures in place to help prevent mental health conditions from occurring, from being developed, all that kind of stuff. So schools, now that the crisis is big, are finally starting to place some management in where they can help manage the mental health conditions individuals have. However, we still are not on the level we should be with implementing preventative measures. So, what are some of the warning signs of mental health conditions within schools? Individuals could have excessive worrying or fear. It's not just a normal worry. It's kind of compulsive. They can feel excessively sad or low. Everything within understanding whether or not it's a mental health condition or whether it's normal or based on their circumstances is it obsessive? Is it compulsive? Is it excessive? Is it irrational? That kind of thing. They have intense confusion or issues learning, extreme mood changes from one end or the other, and they don't really make sense as much either. Prolonged, very long feelings of sadness, depression. They avoid things that they used to, whether it's certain foods, or they indulge in foods more often. They avoid social things or other activities that they used to engage in frequently and love. They have hallucinations, difficulty perceiving reality. They are abusing substances like alcohol, drugs, maybe even like cigarettes or something, which I guess high schoolers aren't old enough to buy those anymore. They used to be. They have thoughts or expressions about suicide. They have such debilitating stress that they can't function, or they have intense fear, or they have intense weight gain or weight loss. So we are going to talk about 2 major mental health conditions and then a therapy. So the first is anxiety. And anxiety in itself is something that we are supposed to have. Anxiety motivates us to avoid danger. So like they said this in one of the videos, like if you're standing on the edge of a cliff, you should have a little bit of anxiety. It helps you to avoid that danger and remove you from that situation. However, when you have high consistent levels or they are irrational, that's not good. High intense anxiety, debilitating anxiety can shut down your brain. It can cause anyone of any age who has anxiety to have issues coding or recalling info, as well as to have executive functioning issues, which will obviously affect your behavior, your academics, your social life. And so for this reason, people who work with children with debilitating anxiety consider it to be a learning disability. Next is OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. And OCD, first of all, is a very real disorder. It is not when a college-age student is like, oh my gosh, my roommate is so OCD, she washes the dishes every day, she vacuums every day. It's not that. It's not someone who likes to use colorful pens. It's not someone who wants their kitchen to be organized. It is someone who has obsessions and compulsions that are literally debilitating, that are irrational. They think that if they don't do these things, their themselves or someone they love will literally die. And so the obsessions lead to the compulsions. So, for example, the most common or most talked about and misunderstood part of OCD is a fear or an obsession about contamination, sickness, and germs that leads to the compulsion of washing your hands or using hand sanitizer so much you make your hands crack or bleed or get chapped, that kind of thing. So the obsession causes the compulsive behavior. And the contamination obsession is what a lot of people think of people who are completely neurotypical being OCD just because they clean their kitchen once a day. 1 in every 200 children has OCD. And like I said, this is very, very real. This is not a joke. This is not something you say about people who are neat and orderly. This is someone making sure their door is locked 200 times, so much so that they can't sleep because they had a compulsion to check the lock that much because they are obsessed with someone breaking into their home and killing them. Or the oven being left on because the compulsion to check their oven so many times that they can't even go to work or school because they're obsessed that the oven's going to combust and burn their house down with their animals and their loved ones in it. So therapy that can help, especially with anxiety, but as well as other mental health conditions too, is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This can help rewire our brains. So how does it do this? It helps us make new neural connections and produce different chemicals, which helps change the brain structure through therapy. And so this is done through explicit teaching and repetition in a therapeutic setting to help change thinking patterns. So there's a lot of ways that this can happen. This can be done with a therapist. This can be done in your classroom. But basically, it's any type of explicit teaching that is very honed in and individualized that helps change thinking patterns. And when done for a long period of time, your brain is literally going to make new neural connections, rewire itself, and produce different chemicals in the brain to help you think differently and process things differently and function differently. So that's what I took away from this module, and thank you guys for watching my elevator speech.